See, last class, which was yesterday, we spoke of Causticum, okay, and I see few new students. So what we have done is we have tried to explain Causticum at the level of PG learning, okay, and the paralysis, warts, fine, and burns, it was extensively discussed, okay, and today we are trying to focus on the mind of Causticum, okay. So for the first time we spoke a remedy, the particular symptoms first, and then we are talking of the mental symptoms, okay. See, now when we look at the mental symptoms of Causticum, see, there are different ways of explaining mental symptoms, okay. Now each author, okay, or each teacher may have his own way of explaining mind, fine. See, if we look at the traditional way of understanding the mental symptoms, all those students were Kent lovers. You know, Dr. Kent, if you look at the repertoire also, the mentals are mainly divided into will, intellect and emotions, okay, and of course he also adds memory, if I am right. So what we'll do is, today next 30-40 minutes, we'll try to exclusively concentrate on the emotional part of Causticum, okay. I'll be looking at the emotions, fine. Now before I start contributing from my side, as a PG scholar, having studied Causticum in your UG or having prescribed Causticum somewhere, what are the mental symptoms that you can recall in Causticum? That's a very simple question. What mental symptoms? Okay, I'll be very happy if you limit yourself to the emotions, okay. But sometimes emotions will not be under our control. You might start contributing other areas also, no issues. But I want to be very clear that at least my focus will be on the mind of, the emotions of Causticum. So can I have some quick answers, quick inputs? They are very good. Whenever Causticum comes to mind, at least as a UG student, when I was studying UG, one thing my material teacher had strongly told about Causticum is they are very sympathetic. Absolutely right. We'll understand what sympathetic is, okay. What is the speciality of sympathy in Causticum? We'll try to explore. Good, one is sympathetic. Okay, they are obedient. I'll just change Dr. Sunil's statement. Okay, obedient. We'll have a synonym there. Obedient, good. Causticum is sympathetic. They are the kind of people who will not support injustice. Okay. Yeah, we'll look at that. A rule follower. Good. Yeah, rule follower. Fine. Anxiety for others. Okay. Probably the sympathy factor also comes from what Dr. Vaishnavi is trying to contribute, that they have anxiety for others. We'll discuss. Good. Any other quick inputs? There is grief. We saw in the ailments from, and the grief, though I am not mentioned here, because I felt we have already discussed grief, so I thought we will not repeat grief. But anyway, as a small sum up or a recall, the grief in Causticum was very good. Grief which is of deep origin, and grief with deep sorrow. Long lasting grief. Okay. That's where we had natrum and other remedies we had compared. Okay. It's not like aconite, sorry, it's not like ignitia, which is grief of recent origin. This is grief of long lasting grief. Okay, good. There is good amount of grief in Causticum. Okay. Anything else that you can recall? Probably something would have given you a beautiful clue. What is Causticum? What is Causticum? Causticum is a Kali. Causticum belongs to Kali group. Okay. Must be that one word will give us lot of information. Now you tell me. Now you can start thinking, what could be the emotional aspect of a Kali? Okay, they are very rigid, they are fixed, good, agreed. Okay, the routine is good. Apart from that, what we have in Causticum? Kalis. Okay, they are family oriented, agreed. He's a family man. Okay, chalo. Okay, they will have a lot of fears. Good. One word. They are very timid. Kalis are timid. Okay. Though Kalis are quarrelsome, they are very timid. Now, can somebody quickly join this statement? They are timid, but they are quarrelsome. What is it that you have in Kali? Kali quarrels only with family members. Okay? Kali will not quarrel with everybody. Fine? Kali will quarrel only with family members. Okay? And yesterday I was discussing with my assistants. We had a beautiful case of psoriasis. Okay? And she was one among my very old patients. But I did not realize this trait of hers. She would come fight with me. Doctor, I have been taking treatment from you for so many days, and you are not at all curing me, blah, blah, blah and all. So at that minute I would feel that next visit she will not come. Okay? Now see the beauty of Kalis. Kalis, though they fight with the doctor, they will still continue with the same doctor. Fine? This was a small trait I learned from some book, also heard in a seminar, and I gave her Calical. Done. Psoriasis has gone. We literally stopped the treatment because she beautifully improved. Fine. So this trait of Kalis, you have to remember that they fight, they quarrel only with family members, or they quarrel with physician. They quarrel with physician and they again come back to the same physician. That is the beauty of Kali. Okay. So when you look at this, what I was trying to tell you here is, Causticum belongs to Kali group. Okay. It has the following qualities of Kali. Now the first thing I already mentioned, I don't know if the color is clear there, the PPT, but timidity. Causticum is a timid constitution. Causticum has startling. If you read the source books, if you read the repertory, under startling you have Causticum, which is very much mentioned. So startling, and they are very, very sensitive, and they are quarrelsome. Okay. So these are few traits Causticum has as it belongs to the Kali group. Okay. Timidity, startling, sensitivity and quarrelsome. Okay. Though they are timid, they are quarrelsome. This we'll try to understand as we evolve our Causticum picture. Okay. So we'll go ahead and we'll try to understand few things very nicely. The key points of Causticum you have already contributed. The first thing that you see here is Causticum, is a very affectionate, caring constitution. What is it? Causticum is affectionate and caring. I am trying to give you the emotional picture of Causticum, and we are slowly trying to evolve from psora, psychosis and syphilis. Okay? This is what we are trying to do. So when you look at the psoric Causticum, fine, they are very, very affectionate. Okay? They are very mild. Dr. Sunil was telling, they obey. Fine? They are very mild constitution. Fine? So mild, affectionate, caring. Okay? So these are few things which will highlight in the psoric picture of Causticum. Very caring, very affectionate. See, moving ahead, we also understand, or we also see that Causticum constitution is very, very sympathetic, which you already told me. Now, what do you understand by sympathetic? Feeling others' pain. See, many times you should be recalling your friends, or we might have certain patients of ours who will feel for others' pain, who will feel others' suffering. They put themselves into others' shoes, okay, and they start feeling their pain. Now that is causticum. One of the top remedies who is sympathetic. Okay. Now any other remedies that come to your mind? Sympathetic. Carcinosin, very good. Phosphorus, beautiful, good. Carcinosin, phosphorus, yes. Any other remedies that you can think of? Yes. Now, yeah, there are, see, if you look into your repertoire, there are a lot of remedies. But as a homeopath, when you see a sympathetic constitution coming to your clinic, again identifying a sympathetic constitution is very difficult. Okay? Because every other person tells, I am the best. You are lucky to have me as a patient is a kind of picture every patient gives you. Fine? And recently one of our pages we were discussing. I mean, she was too good. The patient was too good. So when you get a patient who is too good, you should always have that doubt. How can she be so good? Fine, and that's when the PG started interrogating or investigating with the husband, then we got to know the darker side of the lady. And darker side we did confirm with the patient. So when you got something which is very obvious, very good, very nice, please don't fall for it. Dig deep in. That is the psychosis she is giving you. Underneath there will be something big, dangerous. So keep digging for that. Okay. So we'll get back to the remedies that you are trying to contribute. One is phosphorus. Yes. Now what is the speciality of phosphorus sympathetic? Phosphorus is sympathetic. What is it? Okay. Phosphorus, more than close, no? Phosphorus is very, in the process of he being sympathetic, he will not expect anything from you. Okay? For example, you have causticum. Fine? Causticum might have some expectation. Okay? Or causticum might limit to his group. Fine? And not beyond. Okay? And one remedy I was reading, which is mentioned under sympathetic is nitric acid. And what is it that we all know about nitric acid? That nitric acid is very revengeful. They have lot of hatred. What is it? Unmoved by apologies. Fine? That is the kind of syphlitic thing we know about nitric acid. But the Psoric picture of nitric acid, if you look at, they are very sympathetic. Okay? Now how do you differentiate the sympathy or the sympathetic rubric in nitric acid? Okay, good friends, fine. See now one very important thing is, once you go against nitric acid, that's it. Fine. As long as you are in good books of nitric acid, he will continue to help you. Once you go against him, or once he decides he should not help you, you die, you go through hell lot of problems, he will not bother. Fine? Okay, now that is the speciality of nitric acid. Sir, if you are with me, I can give you my life. But if you go against me, I am the worst person. Fine? These are all the statements nitric acid patients will be giving us. So nitric acid, phosphorus. One more beautiful remedy is carcinosin. Again, see carcinosin, beautiful remedy. There is something called as selfless. There is a rubric called selfless. In that you have carcinosin. Andre carcinosin will not have any expectation. Fine? I have helped you today, so tomorrow you will help me. No. They will have no expectation. So selflessly they help. Okay? Fine? Unconditionally they help. That is more of carcinosin. Very delicate constitution, very mild, very fastidious. Fine? Okay. So causticum is sympathetic. Fine? Phosphorus is sympathetic. And causticum is also very, very sensitive. Now this is the Psoric picture, the emotional picture that we are trying to understand, and here the sensitivity in Causticum. Any idea what is it that they are sensitive to? I gave you a clue. We are focusing on the emotions. Fine. So now what is Causticum sensitive about? More than the family part? Huh? Very good. Padmashi has got a point. Causticum is sensitive even hearing to cruelty. Okay? Fine. Now two things I've just quickly have added here. Sensitive hearing to the news of cruelty. Okay? Or Causticum is also sensitive to crying of children. See, some child is crying, somewhere some child is crying. You here can feel that cry. Now that's what I was trying to tell you. You know, this is all linked. It is linked to he being sympathetic. It is not your child. It is somebody else's child that is crying. Your own child is crying and you don't feel. What is it? What is the rubric? Your own child is crying. Your own child crying. Oh, she is crying. Fine. You don't feel for that. So, what is the rubric? I mean, see, it could be unfeeling, it could be unsympathetic, it could be hard-hearted. Mera husband ka dil pattar. Kya? Pattar dil. Meaning hard-hearted. You will not feel. But Causticum is not that kind of a constitution. Not your child, not your neighbor, not your relative. Somebody crying. They can't take it. Fine. So, sensitivity hearing of cruelties. 2 remedies. 3 remedies. Very good. One top remedy is calcarea cough. 2 more remedies. Phosphorus. And the other remedy is carcinosin. Okay. Even crying of children, sensitive to crying of children, you have carcinosin and phosphorus. Okay. They can't see, they can't listen to somebody's cry. So what could be the immediate rubric in the psychosis that you see here? What could be the immediate rubric that will come up? Horrible, sad stories affects her profoundly. So this is psoric, the sensitivity. And in psychosis, you see horrible, sad stories affects her profoundly. Okay? Somebody narrating their grief, or some movie, some serial, or some live thing, somebody is crying, they can't see. Fine? Okay? So, Causticum is also sensitive to pain and sensitive to noise. Sensitive to noise. Okay, we'll go ahead and we'll see what other emotional things we have here. Now, what is this? What is this? These are the constitutions who get offended very easily. They are very sensitive. This is what we saw here, that they are very sensitive, and sensitive wherein they also get offended very easily. Okay? Fine. Now what is this offended very easily? What does it mean? They get hurt very easily. Good. Could be one angle. And everything you talk now, they take it in a wrong way. Fine. And friends, unluckily if it is your wife who gets offended very easily, then every statement you make, you have to think. Should I tell? If I tell, how will she react? How will she, take it? Fine. So, constitutions who get offended very easily. We will have a small discussion here as a PG students. When you understand the rubric, offended easily, any wild guess which are all the remedies that will come under the rubric offended very easily? Okay, it could be natrums, good. Staphylococcus aureus, beautiful. Platina, okay, good. I mean, okay. So you are looking at one area. So when you are telling palladium, when you are telling platina, when you are telling all this, what do you have in your mind? Why do those constitutions get offended? Because of haughtiness. I discussed this when I was doing a censorious rubric. When I explained censorious rubric and in sulfur lecture, I told you why a person can be censorious. Okay? This why will help you understand and classify the remedies. Okay? So, who and why do they get offended? That's very important. Sir, I get hurt very easily. Our husband may tell, sir, I can't be jovial. I am sulfur. I can't be jovial. Sulfur is very casual. And his wife is Netram. Any damn thing he is telling about some damn person, what will Netram think? Oh, he is telling it to me only. Fine. So these are all wrong combinations. Like horoscope, if we can match the constitutions first only, we can see who are compatible. Fine. Arsenic, sulfur. Fine. I mean, Nux vomica, pulsatilla. Nux pulsatilla may still go hand in hand because Nux dominates and pulsatilla says, okay, fine. They may still go ahead. Two haughty constitutions. Fine. For example, you have platina husband and palladium wife. Gone case. Fine. 3 days, 4 days, divorce. Because we have issues with adjustment. That's how many divorce cases are increasing. Must be if you see the constitution first, we can tell who can be compatible. Hopefully we should start this homeopathic horoscope. I don't know. Must be in future we can plan this and we can decide. We'll get back. See, what I was trying to tell you is, see now when you have a person who is getting offended very easily. Now what is that should go in your mind is, why is this person getting offended? Okay? Is it because of the constitution being insecure, or is it because the constitution is a haughty constitution, a egoistic constitution? Fine. So if it is haughty, if it is egoistic, then we have Nux vomica, Lyco, Staphylococcus aureus. Kent says beautiful in his Materia Medica. They always walk with their honor. Fine. They always walk with their honor. And any small statement you give, and if they feel it is damaging, then it's very difficult for them to digest. For staff, honor is very important. Fine. So, Lycopodium, Staphylococcus aureus, Nux vomica, they all want ego. I mean, they are very egoistic. Similarly, if you see arsenic is a perfectionist. So, arsenic will not like anybody offending them because he himself is a perfectionist. Carcinosin. Why carcinosin will not like being offended? Because he is very, very sensitive. He is very sensitive. He is very sensitive to you being rude. Fine? Okay? And causticum. When somebody tries to offend them, they become very angry. They become very violent. Causticum, only today I realized, because of this class, that I realized causticum is a 3-mark remedy under offended easily. Otherwise I never knew causticum was there in a repertory. I have used causticum very rarely in my clinic. Must be, this is an opportunity for me also to understand causticum better. This is a remedy that is not so often used in our practice. We are not using it because we are not getting causticum patients, or we have no idea how a causticum person is. Fine? So it could be those two simple reasons. So offended easily, I've just given you a small clue. As an assignment, you can go back home and you can look into the rubric. And as a material student, try to understand why each constitution is getting offended easily. Okay? And causticum, if you look at the Sura, they are the constitutions who get frightened very easily. Okay? Too much frightened easily and very timid constitution. Fine? So, if the class is effective and if pictures are making some sense, then credit should go to Google Images, fine, from where I have taken all the images, fine. So there is a saying, when you see, you retain it better, your learning is better, and that's why I try getting images, and thanks to Google Images, we'll get back. See, now what did you understand here is the psoric emotions is what we are trying to understand. And before we go ahead, what did you understand the psoric emotions? Causticum is sensitive, is sympathetic, is mild, is timid, fine, and who get offended very easily. Okay, fine, and they get frightened easily, and they are very timid constitutions. Okay, now this is the Sora. As I discussed a little while ago, startling, one of the important symptom that you have in Cali group. So startling is something that is very, very prominent. Okay, and callus, remember, is very prominent in callus. Small things they can startle, fine. And before I forget, startling, and one more important thing you have here is they will not like being touched. Okay, which constitutions come to your mind? Arnica. Why Arnica doesn't like to be touched? Because of soreness, because of pain. Correct, good. Because of pain, fine. Okay, and Sina, fine. Irritable, fine. Sina doesn't like to be touched, doesn't like to be looked at also. Forget about touching. Very touchy child. Okay, done. Ophidias will not like touch. Done. Apis will not like touch. Could be. Hyosemas is also sensitive. That is what they say. That's why they don't like dress. Fine. They remain naked. Hyos, very sensitive to clothing. Okay. Now here, Causticum also doesn't like touch. One reason is touch can cause startling. And one more very important thing you see in Causticum, which is very common to all callus, is that they are very ticklish. They are very ticklish. You understand ticklish? Ticklish. What do we say in our local language? Kachkuli. Fine. They are very sensitive. I mean, I don't know. I know this is getting recorded, but we had a very good friend of ours. I don't know if I have shared it or what. I know it's not a platform to share, but he had a very bad sensitivity. The moment you touch, he would literally jump. Fine. And during our college days, that's what I don't want to tell. Don't want to go more in detail, but we didn't realize that it is ticklish way back. But now when I understand ticklish, he is a friend of mine who comes to my mind. He was very sensitive. Any place, you just touch, he would, you understand, literally jump and fall on the table. Very, very, sensitive. So, ticklish, one remedy that should come to your mind is Cali. Top remedy, Cali. You can also add Causticum. Okay. Now, startled easily is what I was trying to explain. Startled easily from noise on going to sleep or during sleep. Okay. These are few things you have it under Causticum. They get startled easily. See, another thing, when I was referring the repertoire yesterday, under anxiety, you have so many things in your repertoire mentioned under Causticum. Causticum is very anxious constitution, very timid constitution. But what we all know is Causticum is a rebel. He is a fighter. He is a revolutionarist. All those things. So that will come up slowly as the pathology progresses, as the miasm gets bloomed. This is Sora, and we are discussing the emotions. Fine. So here what do you see is they are anxious. Now what are the anxious? Now how do you understand the rubric anxiety? Or how do you study the rubric anxiety? Under what subheadings you study anxiety? When a person comes to a clinic with anxiety, what are all the questions we ask? Why are you anxious? For what are you anxious? And in anxiety, what do you do? Fine. When is it more? When is it less? Allah. So to keep the class clinically oriented, I have just subdivided the anxiety part under what brings on anxiety in Causticum. Okay. Now what is it that is going to cause anxiety in Causticum is ineffectual desire for stools. When they have this ineffectual desire for stools, that will bring on anxiety. 3-mark remedy, Causticum. Okay? And anxiety on waking. The moment they wake up, they feel anxious. Anxiety on going to sleep. Anxiety pains with, or pains will bring on anxiety. 3-mark remedy, Causticum. Anxiety which comes from noise. This is justifiable because they are very startling. So noise can bring in anxiety. Anxiety which comes from night watching. And when I did ailments from, one of the important causative factor was night watching. And anxiety when alone. These are few reasons why they become anxious. Okay. Now the next question is, what are they anxious about? See, you have a patient, what are you anxious about? See, if you may tell, sir, I am anxious about my health. If you may tell, I am anxious about my father's health, my mother's health, my husband's health. Fine. So here, Causticum has anxiety for others. Probably this is one thing which also tells us that Causticum is sympathetic. Sympathetic. Okay. Anxiety for others, anxiety about future. How my future will be. Okay. And he is also anxious about his business. Will my business improve? Will I get doomed? Whatever. So they are anxious about 3 things: for others, for future, and business. Okay. Now what do they do in the state of anxiety? Rustox, what is it? Aconite, arsenic, phosphorus. We have different remedies. Stramonium. See, one remedy you should never forget for panic attacks is stramonium. Beautiful remedy. I have some 8 to 10 cases cured with stramonium. And unfortunately, one of our very young actor expired. Very unfortunate. So with due respect to that great man, after his death, the panic attack cases increased in clinic. And you see the kind of following he had. My God, old ladies, 70 years, 72 years. There are many people who tell, even when my son died, I did not feel so much. But see the kind of following that great man had. That when they started, taking it to heart and feeling bad, was one category. The other category went berserk. They went, they went in a panic mode. What is it? CT angio, 2D echo, TMT. When such a fit star, when he can die, I am just hogging. Do you think I have any chances of living? So they all went for, they went in a very panicky mode. Cardiologists were flooded because so many cases coming in. There, stramonium, at least 2-3 cases I have, who came to me after this actor's death, and stramonium did wonders. Wonders. Fine. Never underestimate the power of stramonium. Beautiful remedy. Fine. And I got to learn, or I got this clue from my teacher Vijaykrishna sir, and I have used it in many cases. And if you are lucky, and if you get somebody who is in a panicky state, fine. See, stramonium, what we have studied in UG is a different thing, and that is the beauty. As you progress, as you start loving homeopathy more, homeopathy also starts giving you so much back. And I never expected stramonium. Beautiful remedy. And stramonium very recently, I had given it for one fever, which I had shared. And what was that one important thing that made me think of stramonium was the child clinging to the father. The child clinging to the father. And loquacity, delirious state, high fever, head dot, extremities cold. Never forget stramonium. Fine. I was also a little apprehensive. Should I give belladonna or should I give stramonium? But that clinginess, stramonium, beautiful remedy. 103.7 was the fever, and they had to literally use suppositories and paracetamol. A single dose of stramonium 10 ml. Magic. You should experience, such cases, such cures. Wish you experience something like this in your clinics. It's a beautiful experience. We really don't know what is there in that drop. God knows, animal knows. Fine, but it does wonders. Okay. Anyway, let's not deviate, because when we start talking the other thing, I know it's very fascinating. It's very fascinating, but we have to do justice to the syllabus also, Causticum also. So let's get back. I was talking to you about anxiety in Causticum, and what happens when they're anxious. When they're anxious, they keep going. Anxiety drives from place to place, meaning that's more of the emotional thing which is acting on the body, and they start becoming restless. You also have it in aconite, you also have it in ars, you also have it in restox. Anxiety which comes when he is in bed. I forgot to mention that here. Anxiety when he is in bed. So when you become anxious, what do you do? The anxiety drives him out of the bed. Causticum. Yeah, better remedies. Anxiety associated with headache, suicidal disposition and fear. Anxiety associated with headache, suicidal disposition and fear. So this entire slide, is dedicated to anxiety. Okay, we'll go ahead. Animation is not over, but anyway. So what you need to understand is, they also have a good amount of fears. We spoke of anxiety. Now we are going into the psychosis, the emotional aspect of Causticum. We are looking at the fear. Now what are they afraid of? Okay, it's all there, wide open. They are afraid of dark. They are afraid of death. They are afraid of animals. Fear of animals, especially dogs. Okay? Fear of ghosts, fear of mice. And fear something will happen. So when you go further and when you ask them, what is that something that might happen? What is that fear that you are worried something might happen? Then fear something bad might happen. Okay? Fear of misfortune. Fear something might happen to his family. Okay? Fear something might happen to himself, or some unpleasant thing might happen. Something that is not pleasant. That's why it is fear. Fear something unpleasant might happen. Or, see this beautiful thing. Which is the remedy? We all know. Husband will not return home. Good, Ilam. Husband will not return home. Fear, wife has a fear that husband will not return home. And the beauty of repertory is, we'll get to learn more remedies. Some 4-5 remedies are mentioned under that particular sub-rubric. Barretacar, phosphorus, causticum and platina. But platina is the only 2-mark remedy. Okay, platina. So these are the fears we have in causticum. Okay. Moving ahead is again a very angry constitution. Okay. What brings on anger in causticum? Or what is the character of anger that you see here is anger which is violent. Anger going to the extent of rage. Okay. See, if somebody has to fight, tomorrow you'll see that part of causticum. If he has to fight, then he should definitely have that spark, that fire. Okay, fire. Though he is timid, when something wrong is happening, you see him getting aggressive. Fine. So violent anger for small things. Okay, and anger which is seen more on waking. These are few things you have in Causticum. Okay, and this we should not forget, because the emotions is almost coming to an end. And without this emotion, Causticum is incomplete. And this is part and parcel of Cali group. Cali group. They are quarrelsome. Calis are quarrelsome. So is your Causticum. Okay, they are quarrelsome. Fine. And now when I put this, what is it that you understand? Okay, before that, see, we are trying to explore the syphlitic Causticum, or the syphlitic emotions of Causticum is what we are trying to explore. I know this is suicide, this is what sadness, etc., etc. But we started with sensitivity, timidity, we started with then anxiety, then we spoke of fear, anger, quarrelsome, and this is the climax where we are trying to discuss the suicidal part. And when it is suicidal, you know, the predominant miasm will be syphlitic. Okay? So the last part of the emotions that we are discussing here is suicidal. Okay? Fine. Now, why Causticum gets these suicidal thoughts is very important. Okay? Now, any idea why they get suicidal thoughts? Okay, good. There is grief. Agreed. Yes, there is long-lasting grief. So they get suicidal thoughts. Good.
Anxiety that something bad is going to happen.
Okay, but is it so strong that it will drive them to? It is there. No, I mean anxiety with suicidal thoughts. Yeah. Okay. No, but in Causticum, you know, there are two reasons why they might get suicidal thoughts. One is suicidal thoughts from disappointed love. Okay? Though we all know so many remedies for disappointment in love, and each constitution based on his thing, the reaction will be different. It's a beautiful topic, disappointment in love. It's out of your syllabus. So when you are really free, when we have time, we'll talk that. But my question for you today is, not all who are disappointed will think of suicide. That's what you need to understand. Fine? But there are very few remedies in our materia medica who will either try committing suicide or who will think of suicide. Okay? Suicidal disposition, disappointment in love from. Okay? We have 5 remedies. One I have already given, Causticum. So 4 more remedies. Okay, good, very good. Aram, you can feel free. You feel free. Whenever there is suicide, yeah, think of Aram. Good. But there are also other remedies. And Aram has its own symptomatology when it comes to suicide. Okay? But one of the top remedies. The more they talk of suicide, the more strong Aram becomes. You know, meaning from our side, as a homeopath, the prescription of Aram is justified. Good, Aram. You also have belladonna. Okay? And if I am right, you also have hyoscyamus. Aram, belladonna, hyos. Pulse I am not very sure, but just before you make a note, just check in your repertory. Suicidal disposition, disappointment in love from. 5 remedies. Causticum, Aram, belladonna I am sure, hyos I am sure. Pulse or lachesis. You will have to just check and let me know. Okay? Staphysagrine. Oh, sorry, it's not pulsatilla and lachesis, it is staphysagrine. Fine? See, now there again, if suddenly this thought came to me, there again if you have to differentiate. Fine? They want to commit suicide or they have those suicidal thoughts, how do you differentiate these 5 remedies? Aurum, staph, belladonna and hyocinth. Okay. How do you why Aurum will think of suicide? See, we are talking of disappointment in love. Fine. When he is in love with a lady, or when he is in love with a, will not worry about the gender. Fine. So when some Aurum is in love, and then he is not getting that love, or if there is a breakup, if there is a disappointment, fine, Aurum will go into a very bad guilt. Fine. Must be I was not good enough. Huh? I should have been like this, I should have been like that and all. And then what comes to his mind is suicide. For any damn problem, the only solution Aurum thinks of is death. If I die, fine. All problems will end. Fine. Staph is agria. Why? Staph. Staph is an insult for staph. She ditched me. Fine. She ditched me. Or he ditched me. Fine. It's a big insult. How can she do this to me? What will happen to my image? How will I face my friends? How will I face my society? Better let me die. That is Staph agria. Belladonna. Belladonna. What is belladonna? In belladonna it is more of an impulse. Sudden impulse. He may not think like Aurum, or he may not think like Staph agria, that it is maryade, it is honor, it is image, nothing. Suddenly belladonna will get an impulse. Fine. She ditched me, fine, so let me jump or let me do this, that. Strong impulse. Okay. But why Hyos goes into suicidal mode? Why Hyos goes into suicidal mode? Fine. But if you, I really don't know, that's why I'm asking you this question. But what Hyos I know is they go more into a destructive mode. We are seeing self-destruction here, but Hyos will go into a destructive mode of destroying that opposite person. Fine? Okay, they can go into more of jealousy, okay, or they can go into harming that lady or that person, not self-harming. But I really don't know. Must be Hyos has 2 faces. At least this thought came suddenly. I'm just giving you. Okay, but Hyos is something we need to explore. Right? But jealousy is there in Hyos, which comes from disappointment in love. Revenge is there. Yeah, they're malicious, they're revengeful. Many movies we see, putting acid. Fine? Okay, you have so much of what? Huh? Fine. If I do, must be Rakesh will tell it better. But what he is trying to tell, because I am facing the camera, is that if I am not getting it, then nobody should get it. Fine. And could be more worse is you are acting smart because you look beautiful. No, I see to it that beauty is taken away. Fine. Pouring acid, all that destructive thing, that syphlitic thing, is what you have in Hyos. Okay. So with this we come to the end of the emotions. Fine. Causticum is not yet over. Hopefully in the next class I'll try to take up the the will and the intellect part of Causticum, and if time permits we'll also try to discuss the morals of Causticum. Fine. And again, if you read Causticum through repertory or from repertory, you get a different picture. Fine. Definitely we'll talk of good things about Causticum in the next class. He being he is a person who cannot support injustice happening, going to the extent of revolution, anarchism. We'll discuss all those things. It's a beautiful thing. We'll keep it up for the next class. And if time permits, we'll also try to explore a little about Causticum sexuality. Fine. There are few rubrics which are very shocking, and it is there. probably there I can share you one case of mine whom I had given Causticum. Okay, fine. So what made me think of Causticum? We'll just discuss. Now before I close, any questions? Hope the idea is clear. We have just explored the emotions under psora, psychosis and syphilis. Evolution of Causticum emotions is what we have tried to understand. In the next class, what is that idealistic thing you have in Causticum? Fine. All those things we'll try to explore. And we can also try to compare it with what Merck. It comes very close. We'll try to take it up in the next class. Okay? No questions? All clear? Anxiety? Yeah.
Anxious for others and futures. And that will come, is it coming only when waking or going to sleep? Is it like this?
No, see what I have tried to do, yeah, could be. See, anxiety when? And anxiety for what? Okay. So when you look at that, probably anxiety for others or anxiety about future and anxiety about business might come up during this period. Yeah, it came here. Fine. So anxiety for what is the next heading under which I mentioned? When are they anxious? For what are they anxious? And what do they do in anxiety? And anxiety is associated with what are the symptoms? Under that we have tried to explain. So ideally, see, for others, typically it may not come only when going to sleep and all. It could be a common thing. But this might be independent to this segment. But for what are you anxious? Fine. I am anxious about my friend who is in problems, or I am anxious about something. I heard some news. Fine. I am anxious about them. Some wrong happening, they may be anxious. Or they might be anxious about their own future. Probably their business is not doing all that good and they might be anxious. Fine. So what are the anxious is this. Fine. And what brings on anxiety is this. Different headings I have classified so that you have more clarity. And in future also you can study a remedy under these headings. It will be easy for you. Okay. Yeah. Hope it's clear. Anything else? Time up? Chalo, thank you then. We'll meet in the next class and we'll discuss. Thank you.